The United States Supreme Court has upheld the verdicts of lower courts, which declared that President Trump's tariffs policies constituted an unconstitutional exercise of executive authority. It was a 6-3 decision which was written by Chief Justice Roberts and it was dissented by three conservative judges. What is the case history of this judgment? When US President Donald Trump started imposing tariffs on various countries, various businesses approached US Court of International Trade and argued that President Trump's imposition of tariffs amounted to unconstitutional exercise of executive authority, and the US Court of International Trade concurred with such assessment. Subsequently, the case moved to United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, where President Trump's administration argued that the imposition of tariffs were valid under 1977's International Emergency Powers Act. According to US President Trump's administration, since the International Emergency Power Act empowers US President to regulate the international economic interactions, it therefore gives power to US President to impose tariffs. The federal court examined these arguments and pointed out that one, Congress did not use the words tariffs or any of the synonyms like duties or taxes when International Emergency Powers Act was enacted. Second, the court also observed that whenever such powers were given, it clearly placed limits on usage of such powers. The US federal court also pointed out that the imposition of tariffs on various commodities coming from various countries violated major questions doctrine, which stipulated that any decision which would have significant financial consequences should have legislative concurrence. Whether it is West Virginia versus Environmental Protection Agency case, or whether it is Joe Biden's waiver of student loans, the Supreme Court held in these cases that all these decisions required prior congressional consent. The US Supreme Court today has upheld all these arguments. In its judgment, the US Supreme Court noted that the US president is asserting extraordinary authority to unilaterally impose tariffs without congressional consent. The US stock market has responded positively to this decision initially, and many countries across the world are hopeful that the tariffs will be reduced very soon. On the other hand, there are arguments that US president can reimpose tariffs on many countries under various provisions such as Section 301. However, such imposition of tariffs under Section 301 will not be easy, as it would require a prolonged procedure to impose or to take such decisions. First, the United States State Representative should initiate proceedings before imposing tariffs under Section 301. Then it should call for public consultation, which would be followed by an investigation, and which would be followed by publishing the results of the investigation, and then imposition of tariffs will come at the end of this prolonged process. But the US Supreme Court judgment has also made an important point that any other decision that the US president takes, which will have long term financial consequences, which would amount to tariffs, taxes, or duties without consultation of the Congress, constitutes an unconstitutional exercise of authority. Therefore, the next steps that the US president takes will have to be very calibrated and carefully thought out. The uncertainty on tariffs will continue for some more time because the US Supreme Court reportedly did not give clarity on whether the refund should be given, if so, how soon they should be given. Let us hope that this judgment will bring about greater clarity on the imposition of tariffs, and the United States government under President Trump will abide by the US Supreme Court's decision not only in letter but also in spirit.